There were a lot of external things that were making me feel tethered to a few situations that I didn't feel like I was fully aligned with.
What did that feel like?
Trapped.
He was in a little bit of a fog, questioning everything about his life. His marriage was in a really, really hard space.
I was the typical story of you have a roofing door-to-door salesperson that works their way up the company, thinks they know everything, goes and starts their own thing. And I knew that if I doubled in size, I wouldn't like my life very much.
You could just tell something inside of him was stirring, or maybe even breaking. We sat down, man to man, no facade, no filters. We talked about his faith, his business, his purpose, and his pain.
I was really searching for purpose at the time, and I knew I wanted to have a purpose. I knew I wanted to do something that to me felt more impactful. I didn't choose roofing. I stumbled into it like most of the people in this industry.
Nobody chooses it.
Right.
I don't think there's very many people that choose it. In early January 2024, I had an opportunity to meet in Chicago, believe it or not, that's where we're filming this episode, with a guy named Matt Brasic. And he's a guy that I think I met at a conference one time, and I hadn't seen him in a while. But we met, and at the time, he was in a little bit of a fog, questioning everything about his life. His marriage was in a really, really hard space. His spirit felt a little restless, I would say. And even though his resume was strong and he had a really cool outer story of how he was figuring out life, you could just tell something inside of him was stirring, or maybe even breaking. We sat down, man to man, no facade, no filters. We talked about his faith, his business, his purpose, and his pain. I gave him a couple books, shared a few things that worked in my life. He ran with some of those things, and I met him today. In this episode, you're going to hear some of the things that he's done over the last 18 months to kind of set himself free, to shed and shine. And he's walked through a conscious, not a conscious divorce, a conscious decoupling. I learned that word today. And so we're going to dig into that a little bit. We're going to talk about maybe how to reorganize your life once you become aware. And I think this podcast is going to do you a lot of good, especially if you're in one of those places where it's time to kind of figure out who you want to be when you grow up or what you want to do, right? And so today, this is nothing to do with business, right? This is all to do with you as a person in life. This is more about an awakening, and I wanted somebody to come on this show that's been modeling that. He's still going through it. We're all still going through it, but he was willing to share some personal stories about his life, even something I didn't know that we found out on the show today about his father that you won't want to miss. And this is a guy that's not trying to hustle harder. He's trying to figure out peace. That's the guts that it takes. And so tune in. We'll see you on the other side. Matt, this is so cool. Glad to have you here. We're at the Naperville Public Library. It's one of the coolest libraries I've ever seen, so thanks for picking the spot.
Dude, thanks for picking the town. One of the best towns with all the libraries. So cool.
Really? Yeah. So I met you in person for the first time last year, right?
Yep.
We've never met before that, right? You never were at conferences
online
or events or anything like that. We were just Facebook buddies, right?
You know what? We bumped into each other December at Dimitri's thing, RoofCon.
Roofing Process Conference?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
the other RoofCon.
Is that when? And then you started following me, or we became friends on Facebook then, or have you always been friends?
Something like that.
I can have a hard time keeping track.
I don't know. It's a while ago.
So I remember I was coming to Chicago. I put something on Facebook like I normally do. A couple guys met up, right? You were there. We were talking.
Yeah.
Take me back to that meeting in January when we met. That was about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
What was going on in your life at the time? Take me through that. Take me through that day.
Yeah, that was, I think, like January 4th of 2024.
All right, now you're getting exact. All right,
I'm getting exact because I went to a retreat the following day, and I remember that was on the 5th. So I'm pretty sure that was the 4th. But we had met up at a hotel. That season of my life, I had just finished my first full year as a roofing business owner. And it went well, but I realized that there were a lot of things that I wanted to change going into the season. So that was top of mind, and that was why when I saw your post, I was like, I need to go pick somebody's brain that's like outside of my circle. and just kind of pick, because I believe some of the things you were posting at the time was you were stepping into doing some things with EOS.
Well, I was the opening keynote speaker that April.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
So I knew you were doing things in a more structured way than a lot of the people that I had known within my circle. I was the typical story of you have a roofing door-to-door salesperson that works their way up the company, thinks they know everything, goes and starts their own thing. And I did it. I copied the model that I was previously running, and I knew that if I doubled in size, I wouldn't like my life very much. So before entering another year, I was really contemplating how I was going to plan that year. We have winters in Chicago, so I knew that getting through another year like that wasn't a year I wanted to live again. Not that I wanted to kill myself or anything like that, but it wasn't a year that I wanted to repeat. And I just figured I'd go pick a brain and see, you were doing all these things with EOS, which is something that I had heard of at the time, but didn't know too much about. And I was thinking there has to be a different way of doing this that is better than the model that I'm currently doing. I had an idea of what I wanted to build, but I didn't know how. And going into that meeting, I figured either I'd meet other people that could become allies that were local to me, that you'd attract, or I'd at least get to pick your brain for an hour, unpaid.
Did you, I think Giovanni Ramirez was there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you still talk to him or?
Yeah.
He's out of Rockford, I think, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it wasn't Giovanni. Giovanni was supposed to be there. He didn't come. It was,
Ciro
Barrientos. Is that his last name? Or? He's a salesman.
Yeah, we connect a couple times on Facebook every year, but I haven't seen him in person since then, so no deep dives.
Okay, that's cool. So tell me, I know we were talking in the car ride over here. It's not that it's hard for me to remember every conversation.
Sure.
Just because there's so many. And you're like, hey, you gave me a couple prescriptions. And I love that term because I like to look at myself as like a visionary navigator, right? Where I'm able to hear all of the things that you got going on, and then give you a couple things that have worked in my life to help diagnose, or fix the solution, fix the problem that maybe you might be experiencing. And so what were those things that we talked about that you took to heart or that made an impact on you?
Yeah, looking at the meta of that example as its whole, like, I don't think I called books prescriptions until you had mentioned that in that conversation. So that's one of the things. I think I asked you if you had any books recommendations, and you told me, honestly, I look at books a lot like prescriptions. And you had said that to me, and I was just like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I wouldn't read a book if it was a plan that I didn't want to follow.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could tell you to go read Mary Poppins.
Right.
And that might not be very helpful for you at the time.
Yeah, or maybe it's something that I'm already competent in which case I'm just, mentally masturbating to a book, or it's something that, like, I actually need to learn that's going to bridge the gap between where I am and where I want to go. So you gave me a couple questions. I don't remember exactly what the questions were, but one of them was my contemplation around doing the same year that I had just experienced again, but maybe better with a different frame, taking some advice, or doing something completely different. And I was really searching for purpose at the time, and I knew I wanted to have a purpose. Not that that wasn't a purpose, but I knew I wanted to do something that to me felt more impactful. And I didn't choose roofing. I stumbled into it like most of the people in this industry.
Nobody chooses it.
Right.
I don't think there's very many people that choose it.
You're either born into it.
Except for the PE companies.
The which ones?
The PE,
private equity ones? They like roofing.
Private equity companies are choosing roofing.
Yeah.
But none of the people that they're buying chose roofing.
Right, 100%.
You either got into it because your family was in it, your dad or your uncle or something like that, or your grandpa, or you did some things that weren't so good in your teenage years or your 20s, and like that was the only choice if you wanted to make money, right? Or you met somebody or you got stuck in that rabbit hole. And once you see the roofing model and the money that you can make and the opportunity, it's really hard to like go back and work at a regular job. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
100%. I had just been fired from T-Mobile before getting into this industry for a CP&I violation, which is consumer privacy something or another. We had thrown some credit card info in the trash instead of the shredder, and we had an audit the following morning. And I'm not a compliance guy by any means. I just like to make sure shit gets done. And I had got canned from that job. I was really young, I think 23 or 24, and I had just taken a variety of jobs and fallen behind on my mortgage, my car note, everything, until I was selling cars. Somebody comes in to buy a Ford Raptor in cash, and I'm like, well, dude, you look like the same age as me. Obviously, I'm doing something wrong. Like, what is it that you do? And this guy's like, oh, I just do roofing. And I'm like, dude, I'll go break my back right now. And like, I'm assuming he's installing it. He's like, no, I just sell it. I'm like, okay, well, I can sell. Like, I've been doing sales since I was 18. So I applied for some jobs. That was a Friday. Sunday, I had an interview with Jeff Martin of 3JM. And then Monday, I was knocking doors. And I never looked back. Like, it was like I could never see myself going back into a corporate box and just like doing the same thing every day, which is maybe a pattern that we're uncovering right now. Mm-hmm. I don't want to keep reliving the exact same experience. I want to keep reliving no experience. I want to just have new experiences, novelty, explore all the different walks of life.
Yeah. So everyone's at home's probably wondering, all right, what books did I tell you to read? And then what did you read? What did you do with that information?
Yeah. So one of them was, I believe the title was Lead Like Jesus. Is that right?
Yeah.
That one looked into, which was more about compassionate leadership and finding purpose in serving people, which I found that you can truly do from any role. It doesn't matter. So back to the purpose thing. And since then, I've stayed in roofing actually, but I found purpose within roofing, which is really cool. And finding that you can have purpose in many different areas, and there's many different types of leadership. You don't have to be a dictator or a tyrant or just someone with a really strong sense of authority. You can be somebody that is a compassionate, empathetic leader that can really hear people out, understand where they're coming from, and start to help them navigate them from where they are to where they want to go, and start to identify those things, not from a place of telling them what to do, but rather holding space and allowing that discovery to kind of unfold naturally. That was one of the books.
Yeah. Was there any other big takeaways from that session? I'm just always curious because like now that I don't very get this opportunity because usually I talk to someone and I might never talk to him again. Like sure. That's happened so many times, and there'll be times where someone 5 years later says, "Hey, remember that time that we talked and you DM'd me and you said something?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, I love those because it makes me keep going, you know?"
Yeah.
And so like it's like I never want to lose that little thing, so I'm always curious like what people get out of it. So is there anything else?
Yeah, I think the main thing that I took away from that was we were having a conversation because I wanted to make the decision whether I stayed in roofing that year or I went and did this other thing that I was passionate about. And I had a little bit of money put away where I knew I didn't have to work in 2024. And I think the question that you had asked me was like, because I think you were stepping aside from your company. I don't think you sold it yet.
I just sold it like 6 months ago.
Yeah, so. I think you were in the stage where someone else is going to be kind of taking over.
Yeah.
And I can kind of go pursue this thing that I'd like to do instead of doing that. And I think the conversation was something like, how much money do you need, where you knew that money was coming in and you would be able to just go pursue and do the thing you actually wanted to do? Like, what would that take? And it was that conversation that had me start reverse engineering, finding what that actual number is. I gave you a number and you're like, nah, I bet it's way lower than that. And I'm like, okay. So I really started getting into it, and I mapped out what my cost of living would be and achieved basically what I would call a burn rate, like how much money I'm actually spending to live the life that I want. And that was like the spend money of, going out to eat, having the type of lifestyle that I want. I don't live a frivolous? Yeah. Yeah, I don't live a frivolous lifestyle by any means.
Would you be considered frugal?
I come from that.
Maybe you're in the tweener. You're a tweener.
I think I'm stepping away from the frugalness a little bit. I recognized that I had more money. I was living way below my means because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to achieve the things that I previously achieved. I had a lack of confidence in repeating success. But,
well, I think a lot of people aren't willing. So I know that people are always afraid of like stepping into a new season of their life, and a lot of it's resolved around this money thing, right? And we get, we're creatures of habit, so we have the same rent payment, and we have the same car payment, and we want to go out to eat the same. Mm-hmm. But if you truly want something special or more magnificent in your life, there's a lot of times there has to be a sacrifice, right? And so a lot of people aren't willing to like not go out to eat four times this month to save $400. because they're going to be making less, right, to achieve whatever dream
Sure.
so they stay doing the same thing for 30, 40, 50 years. That's the American dream, right?
For some.
But I know that's what they sell most people on.
Yeah.
But we know that there's something different. So you went and did it, right? So you went and basically took a year off, right?
Yeah. By February, I went to that retreat. I set the intention.
What kind of retreat was it?
It was a men's retreat.
Yeah?
A little bit of plant medicine. But
Was that your first time?
no, that was my second at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. What before we get into like some of the things that you've been up to,
Sure.
if I take you back to that time when I met you a year and a half ago, 18 months ago, what were you afraid to say out loud back then, even to yourself?
I think it was less about saying it out loud. I think it was more about being perceived as someone who failed. Coming from essentially, somewhere around that poverty line, growing up in a single mother household, no father. I had made some level of success really early. I bought my first house when I was 20. I saw zero again at 23 or 24, what I was telling you, before I got into roofing. And then I've been at zero a couple of times and been able to always get my way out of it. But opening the company, creating this like local hero story, and then realizing it wasn't what I wanted after putting in so much effort. And we talked about campaigning a little bit, but just campaigning this thing and making it into something that kind of took its own life. Just realizing it wasn't what I actually wanted. And putting in all this effort into it and putting in all these other people's livelihood, because I had people that were working with me, right? And then being like, yeah, never mind, I changed my mind. Like that felt so hard because, for myself, it was being seen as a failure. And then for the people that were relying on me to keep this thing going, I didn't want to leave them in a worse place than I found them. So me,
they almost kind of had you anchored. Yeah, they had your hooks in you. Not that it was a bad thing, but and you didn't want to just leave them stranded. And so that's a very common dilemma I think a lot of us have in life. That's why it's hard to give up something and transform. And
yeah.
So I don't know if I've ever told you about this book, but Gino Wickman, the guy that created EOS, familiar with him? He wrote a book about a year ago. It wouldn't have been out, so I wouldn't have been able to even tell you about it. It's called Shine.
Okay.
And he talks about the 3 discoveries. There's 3 discoveries and 10 disciplines to maximize your energy, your impact, and your inner peace. Okay, and this is a guy that's had major success in the business world, rang the bell, sold the company, and it's like, a couple years later, like all of his trauma rushed up, all of his feelings rushed up, because he'd been stuffing them down through business and through other accolades and things like that. Had all the money that he needed, but he was still searching for something, and so he wrote this book.
Could I interrupt you and ask, you said energy, impact, and inner peace. I think I know what you mean by impact and inner peace. By energy, do you mean like how much like life force do you have? Or do you mean like that person has good energy? Or do you mean like he's well rested?
All.
What energy do you mean?
All of those.
All of those things. Okay.
Yeah. So, and again, it's written to driven entrepreneurs, right? And so,
okay.
That's a whole other thing. If people are interested, they can go read the book. They can also read the book Driven by Dr. Doug Brackman, where he gets a lot of that information about, hey, we are driven. That's the first discovery, actually, that you are driven. And that leads, that's a blessing and a curse, right? And so it leads to, for your case, you wanted to come out of poverty, right? You didn't want to go through the same life that your mom was going through, and you wanted to be better, right? And you probably wanted to take care of your mom. And you probably wanted to create something, right?
Yeah.
But through that, then you realize you created this animal, this roofing company, and then you knew that oh crap, that's the energy started taking you there, right? And then you realize I'm gonna make myself a cage that I can't get out of.
Exactly.
Right. And so again, it's a common dilemma that all of us have, especially entrepreneurs. But the reason I brought that book up is because he talks about 2 different worlds: your inner world and your outer world. And so we heard a little bit about your outer world. What I want to know is, what did your life look like on the inside? What did that feel like? What?
Trapped. I can specify a few more things on the external world before diving into the internal, but the external world had a lot of what I'm calling constraints, but you could call them ties or tethers that rooted me down into like I said, I can't leave my business because
Hooks.
I have to. Yes, yeah. You said the word hook.
Gino calls them hooks.
Okay.
And so I like that word. Because it's like you can feel like what it feels like.
Yeah. If you pull too hard, they're gonna rip your skin open. And if you whatever. The point is, there were a lot of external things that were making me feel tethered to a few situations that I didn't feel like I was fully aligned with. I realized that if I had all the knowledge that I had at that moment, and I had the exact same cards and I could play the hand differently, I wouldn't have played the hand the same exact way that I had it. You're familiar with like a mulligan in golf?
Yeah.
Like
I take them all the time.
They use that term in card games as well. Like if you draw a bad hand, like you shuffle it back into the deck, you draw a new hand, because it's like the game's not even worth playing. It's like pointless. And I was in a game that I had set up through unconscious decisions for a long period of time, and things felt like they happened. And when I was in a survival state, I took things on, or I made the best of the things that I had, and I made good decisions out of the hand that I was dealt. But if I were to shuffle the hand back in the back into the deck and then just draw a new hand, and it was the exact same cards, I would have just laid them out differently. Like I would have probably been doing something else for work. I probably wouldn't have been doing roofing, but I got the skill set that I had because of roofing. So I don't think that we really truly have the opportunity to go back and change things, because we have a much different, deck or hand to play with. But if we detach from the things, if we make an actual list of everything, which is what I ended up doing over the next 3 days at that retreat, was I listed out every single constraint that I had, and I started thinking about which ones. Are you familiar with usuji? It's a Japanese concept.
Of what? What's it
called? It's called usuji.
No.
It's OOSOUJI.
I'm familiar with ikigai.
Yeah, it's very, very. It's another Japanese word that I like.
I'm also familiar with Marie Kondo, and she's like, into her like minimalism thing, but
yeah. Well, sushi has to do with minimalism.
I'm into sushi as well.
I love sushi.
I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, we can hit sushi later maybe. Just kidding. You got dinner plans already. But asuji is the Japanese cleaning concept of removing everything. So like if you had a drawer, you take everything out and you only put back in what belongs.
Yeah. That's Marie Kondo's
Yeah, minimalism.
Yeah.
Yep. So that is the concept in itself, and I did that with my life. I took everything out between February and April, and I only put back in what I felt was in resonance of the life that I wanted to start with, the slate that I wanted to start with. Not a fully clean slate. Like I don't think that's truly possible. I think monks might do it, but I think that that's a, different. That wasn't the life I wanted either.
So you're describing a process of letting go, right?
100%.
And that's also a big part of the book Shine as well. I think you're gonna love it. Like it's
Okay.
basically, it's like almost like you went through a lot of the stuff without actually reading the book, and then the book's like the blueprint and the playbook.
Yeah,
and it'll shed a lot of light.
I
on
like
it.
validation.
It's good. Like, hey, we gotta feel like we know what's going on.
Yeah.
So give me a list of those things, because people are probably really curious at home because they got a whole laundry list of things. And
Sure.
so give us some examples of the things that were personal to you that were the things that you needed to figure out what to do with, and whether they were going to go back into the drawer or not.
Yeah, so there's a lot of micro examples. I think the two macro examples would be the marriage that I was in and the business that I was in.
Give me a couple micro examples just so I understand what a micro example would be.
Micro example would be like just even like the diet I was eating, or the gym pattern. Like just going to the gym and having to eat a certain amount of macros every single day. Like that is another. It's another tether like that we tie ourselves to, and like so many people are in the bodybuilding community. If they actually want that, for sure, go get that. Like by all means. But if you actually achieve the thing that you wanted, which is maybe some level of fitness, and maybe you did it because you felt like you were weak as a child, and that now you're big and strong.
A wound.
Or maybe you got the girl after the rejection. But like once you have that, like why are you still doing it?
Doesn't serve you well anymore, right?
Maybe there's a maintenance plan, but I think there's adding years to our life and life to our years, and there's a balance between those two things. And I don't know, I was assessing all the patterns that I was doing, my day-to-day life. I wasn't doing the things I actually wanted to do. Like I really like journaling and writing and things like that. And I felt like I never had time to do that. When I wanted to go design the business, which I actually found a lot of passion in. I liked designing the business. I liked writing it out. I liked planning the things, but I never had time to actually do it for my own business because I was too in the weeds. So the micro example of the habits that I was doing, I think just, I don't know, man. It was just
getting out of that loop, getting out of that Groundhog Day, because basically you've seen the movie Groundhog Day.
I have, yeah.
So it's kind of like the same thing over and over and over again, right? We become creatures of habit, and I think that work is a huge piece of the habit that we're just we got to stay there forever. We're gonna do it, And again, you were only there for a year, but you were starting to feel some of the pain that could be coming in the future. And then marriage is another thing. Marriage is one of those things that we all grow up, and I think God designed us, to be married and to have children, obviously, and to bear fruit and things like that. And so I think that gets in our head, and then we get married and we don't really even know who we are when we get married most of the time. So tell me a little bit about because I want to talk about both. I want to talk about how you let go from the business and also how you let go from the marriage. You call it a conscious divorce, right?
Conscious.
I feel like
conscious decoupling is the term if you want to Google it, because you don't have to be married.
Okay. Conscious decoupling. Interesting. See, I learn stuff every day. Tell me a little bit about that, the background of that, and like how you came up. How does that come to be? Because there's a lot of people who are like, what the heck is that?
Yeah. I was in a relationship for about 6 years. We had both started that relationship in 2017, around the same time that I hit zero, and we worked our way out of zero.
What month was that, by the way? I just want to know, because I hit a rock bottom in 2017.
Yeah, do our paths align, right?
Curious right now.
That was June. Well, I mean, it was between January and June, but
August 2017. I almost died of a fentanyl overdose.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that story. I didn't know that was when it was, though.
Yeah, 2017. So keep going. Tell me about this. Tell me about your marriage and your divorce.
Well, we found each other. We connected in so many ways, and she's one of the best people that I've ever met. But we had started our relationship in a place where we both needed another person. Her destroying some unconscious patterns of her past, like, just drinking and things she was stepping away from. Where I was also stepping away from a lot of things that I was like, I need to get my shit together. Like, I need to go find a job. I need to figure out how to provide. And like, both of us grounded each other. And I think we were together for many reasons, but one of the main ones was survival. And we were together for a short period of time. We got married and we stayed in that relationship. I remember sometime during COVID, we hit like a real low point where like, I don't think we should be together. And both of us,
you said that or she said that?
We both knew it, but yeah, we, the relationship was, both of us were toxic people. And I'm saying that more for myself. I don't actually want to speak that label over her.
So what do you mean that for yourself? Can you describe that? Like what that means?
I think if you threaten a relationship to leave, that you're not really in it. And I don't think that we had alignment on where we wanted to go, both emotionally and also directionally in the physical world. And I don't think that when we got out of seasons of new, I don't think we had as many common interests as I think most couples probably strive for.
Or tell yourself.
You
create that story in your head to make it more magical.
I think so, but also we had a lot of pillar moments, like getting together, getting out of poverty, selling my house to get out of debt, getting married.
You did some cool stuff together.
Yeah, buying a house, remodeling a house, doing all these big activities.
It was an epic adventure.
It was.
That's what it sounds like.
But what we realized is when there wasn't a big pillar moment happening, that lull in between was like we could conquer stuff together. But what we actually wanted to build together and the moments in between where we weren't building, they were two different things.
Do you think that's because you guys were on your own separate journeys as individuals, but then also this third being of like the unified front also had its own like life form? And so we have two souls that are on their individual journeys.
All right. I'm suspending my reality for a second. Let's play this game. Okay.
And then we have a third, which is the marriage, the partnership.
Okay.
And they all have different, in the EOS world, we call it a VTO, your Vision Traction Organizer. It's your 2-page business plan.
Okay.
most of us are never even aware of what it is. It's kind of in the back of our head, and we kind of just are reactive and kind of just float through life until we're very aware, conscious, and intentional, and then we sit down to actually say, oh, what do I actually want? Now, I believe that you need to do that individually, and then also together, and then also if you have a company, you have to do a separate one for your company, right?
Yeah.
Because it just makes sense that like we have a place that we're shooting for, right? We understand who we are and where we're going. And it sounds to me like if you were like me, like I remember I wasn't conscious or I wasn't aware. I just thought, oh, hey, I gotta get married. Check a box. Like, hey, like, you know, she's cool. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And then you start as you run your own personal journey, then you're starting to learn things about yourself. And then when we also at the same time are not taught how to have healthy conflict. And so we don't really know how to talk about things because some people like want to fight, some people want to flight, some people shut down, right? Some people, we're walking on eggshells sometimes because we're afraid, like, oh my gosh, ooh, I really like for instance, it's similar as like, you know, you may find out what political party you love. And all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, like, I don't think she's going to like this.
Sure, yeah.
Or like, oh, I found a specific religion, or I'm finding myself, right? It could be anything. It could be like, hey, I like red cars all of a sudden, and she can't stand red cars. Like, I don't know. It could be something silly. But then we don't know how to have a emotionally intelligent conversation because what I found in my life, and maybe it's because I hang out with a bunch of knucklehead entrepreneurs all the time, but not many of us have been taught how to be emotionally intelligent. And I don't think, from what I know about the world, I feel like 99% of people aren't taught how to be emotionally intelligent. I think it's 20 years from now, I think it's going to be way more because I think more people are aware now and there's a lot more information. And so I said all of that to kind of set you up in that bubble, right? Of like, first of all, what do you take from that as far as like looking at your own journey and then understanding that there are three journeys when there's a partnership, there's both singles and then the partnership.
Yeah.
And then how do you get all three of those to thrive and align? It's very, very hard.
I'm going to do my best to encapsulate all the different areas you touched on. But you spoke on two different parties, I and her, coming together and creating like a third vision. I think to address that part, if I had any idea what I wanted in that life when I was 23 years old in a survival state, trying to figure out like what my next move was or where my next mortgage payment was or how to not get my car repoed, I had no idea what I wanted. I had no idea what I could even have. I didn't know what was on the menu. I didn't know anything. And on the same case, neither did she. Both of us were still finding ourselves. To create a unified vision, I think I agree with you. I think both people need to know what they want and then to see if those goals align. And then if they found the right person and they have visions that are somewhat compatible, they lay out all the differences between the two and they try to find out where there can be harmony, where they can be agreements to disagree, where there can be, because you don't need to be the same person by any means. You don't need the exact same vision, but they should be synergetic. They should work together. Like if I achieve my stuff, does that make you more likely to achieve your stuff? So we both get what we want out of life. And I think for the series that we were together, we 100% got that. I just think that where we wanted to go from there was not where we wanted to get for the next decade or the next lifetime. And what I mean by that is I have a low point in 2020. I think that I'm completely at fault. Like I'm a toxic person that doesn't have emotional intelligence. And
what did you do? Anything specific?
I think the main thing was I would shut down when we were having difficult conversations and I wouldn't actually hold space for her. Yeah. I learned that if she was sharing something with me that I would keep getting pressed. And if I just shut down the conversation, whether through silence or through just like a loud outburst, that the conversation would end. And then I'm positively reinforced that I no longer have to deal with the conversation. And as unconscious as that is, it wasn't an intentional way, but it was a way that I was conditioned to handle that situation in a way that got me out of discomfort.
Mm-hmm. You're not alone. I mean, I feel like I've experienced that myself, and I'm sure others have.
For sure. And that chapter of our life is what led her to going to therapy. That therapy, or the therapist that she was with, after interviewing a few of them, she landed with a really, really good person that she still sees to this day. and he introduced her to spirituality and a bunch of things that took her down a path where she got into some of the woo-woo stuff that we've talked about, and she also got into becoming a therapist herself. And with her going down that path and me continuing down this work path, we both kind of went into our own lanes.
You guys both went your impact lanes.
Both in our impact lanes, right? And then she started to try to use some of the stuff that she was learning or trying to drag me to some of these things. And
you were a test subject, weren't you?
100%.
But you were looking for but you, as you stated earlier, we're looking for an adventure, and we're like, hey, something's better than not doing the same thing over and over again. So
we went on that journey together, and I got exposed to things that I would never have gotten exposed on my normal path. I don't know, but from my inclination towards what types of things I would pick towards, as far as like careers, friends, exposure, I wouldn't have been in those circles. Would have been very adverse to it because I was adverse to it. And I got down that path and started seeing where some of the stuff that I was learning over here was beneficial to what she was doing over here, and what she was doing over here was beneficial to what I was doing over here.
Can I get one example?
How to have difficult conversations with people. I think you do learn that a little bit in sales, but I think you learn how to do it from a much more empathetic and practical way, and able to hold space and truly come to understanding people from what you learn in the woo-woo spiritual therapist space.
I mean, in sales, at the end of the day, like, we're just taught to, like, because we want the sale. We have expectations still in sales.
Yeah,
for the most part. Now, I teach the best salespeople in the world to, like, if you don't have expectations, you can let go of the outcome. You can truly be curious about the other person's state and try to help them actually solve the gap. And sales it's not actually sales. It's just helping people.
Yeah.
But that was a little bit of a sidetrack. Sorry about that.
It's not that much of a sidetrack. I think it's related because at the end of the day, you learn, if you understand more of the customer, you have the power to either correctly convey your point if it's a good fit, or have enough boundaries where you don't take someone who's not a good fit for you, or you don't or you have the ethics to not take on someone who's not a good fit with you. Like, it wouldn't be, your product does not serve their needs. And that translated to the customers. It translated to the people that I worked with. It translated to affiliates that I would get, like insurance agents and things like that.
So you're learning things. You're learning things in her world. You're taking them to your world, and it's actually it's bearing fruit.
Yeah.
But then you're starting to realize that maybe coexisting together in the sanctity of marriage, or whatever that looks like, was still very difficult because maybe you didn't have a common vision. And since we already know that you got divorced, what I'd like to understand is, what was harder when you made that decision? Was it letting go of the marriage, or was it letting go of who you thought you had to be in the marriage?
I will tell you that at the very end chapter, because we were on and off, will they, won't they, for a long period of time. And it wasn't like we were constantly fighting. It was, we were seeing a lack of romantic chemistry, just like, we're friends, we're tight, we're in this together, but like, I don't know if we should or shouldn't. And like, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was hostile. It was just, we knew it wasn't something that we both wanted long-term, but we were sticking with it for the time being to see if things would change, see if whatever. We were continuing to evolve and grow, and we were doing that together. During the last year of it, I think it was more so the grief of the loss of each other. But prior to that, when I was thinking whether or not to lead up into that moment where we were going to decide to start separating, it was, a lot of it was associated with my own identity, and I can't speak to her on this part. That's her story to tell. But, whether it was biblically, like, hey, you're supposed to stay with this person, don't leave your wife, like, just stepping away from any of that. I held on to that so tightly for such a long period of time that I would be a bad person, a failure. We've alluded to this in the business world as well, but in the relationship, just being seen as a failure, as someone who did not make it work, that we could try, that I'm a very persistent person. Like, I think that's what it takes to do door-to-door sales or any type of sales role. I knew that this is just another thing that I can continue to push through, and we can continue to work on. We can do more therapy. We can do more inner work. We can do more shadow work. We can do more self-discovery, inner knowing. And maybe by the end of this, we'll fully accept ourselves and each other. And that was the path that we were on for 3 years of our marriage,
Yeah, you mentioned there was a lot of, I think you mentioned it just now, but I also know that we talked about on the way here, is there was a lot of grief that kind of came over you. Mm-hmm. What did grieving look like for you when it comes to the divorce? And then I don't want to, like, you know, this is kind of like, no one puts this stuff on Instagram, right? Like, this is the not Instagram version, but the real messy midnight, you know, kind of grief.
I would say that the letting go part of it came in waves. There was leading up into the conversation, like I'm going to initialize this and get it rolling, which had a ton of fear associated with it. Fear of the unknown, fear of what was on the other side of that, fear of what our lives would look like, fear of the financial repercussions, fear of everything. And the fear of everything that I didn't know was the thing that stopped me for the longest part of it before pressing that trigger and finally moving forward with it and telling her and having that conversation like, hey, I'm actually ready. I'm certain that this is what I'd like to do. And then...
Because the fear of staying was actually greater at that point.
Yeah.
Well, it has to be to anybody to make a change.
Yeah.
That's what change is all about. Like you have to flip the other. Once somebody flips to the other side, you know, we talk about that in sales a lot, but once somebody can create that other state, mm-hmm. then it's easier to make a decision.
The fear of staying represented to me, because I think this is how I better contextualize it, the fear of staying wasn't like the fear of staying in that place. It was the fear of wasting her youth when I knew I wasn't fully committed, that I knew that we would end at some point and that she had a limited amount of time on this earth to find the right partner, to not waste her life and not to be somebody that would be blamed for dragging something on that I knew I was done with.
And it's very mature of you, I guess.
I mean, maybe. But I just knew that type of guilt, that type of regret wasn't something that I wanted to endure.
There's also people listening right now, I can imagine, that said, like, what would it have looked like if you committed to becoming a better version of yourself, which then at that point, how do you know that wouldn't have been a version that would have paired well with whatever was happening? And like, how do you ever make that final call? Like, is it...
Are you familiar with like Prometheus?
No.
So Prometheus is...
I mean, I've heard that term, like some Greek...
It's the Greek god. It represents trickster energy. But Prometheus is the one that stole the fire from the gods and gave it to the humans. And all the gods were mad at Prometheus because he's like, they're not ready for it. They're going to be destructive. They're going, like, it's going to end civilization. But in order to be capable of holding that fire, being able to contain that energy, they had to experience it. They weren't ever going to become ready without it. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Like, I don't think that either of us would have evolved to be as capable or as compassionate or as understanding or accepting of one another without having actually gone through that separation, gone through all the grief, gone through the processing and staying in communication during it, and leading up through both of us going into two different relationships and having conversations about that and like reflecting back on like the things that we acknowledged that we did wrong in our prior one.
Do you think that men and women are, you mentioned something about a 10-year cycle. I'm a big fan of 10-year cycles, but like we could also make the case that every 10 years we're going to want to make a change. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, and that's to me, like, you know, it's pretty standard and, you know, it's okay. It's almost okay in anything but like figuring out how to coexist as a union and a marriage, right? And I think because it's so hard, I also think it's the life's greatest teacher, one of life's greatest teachers.
Yeah,
is to be able to navigate that for, you know, because I think it teaches patience, humility, you know, kindness, forgiveness, grace, all those amazing things. And it's one thing to sell a business, you know, to change your job, you know, get a new car, you know, things like that, right? But when it comes to a human being, right, that you're like, hey, we're going to go on this journey together till death do us part, right? And for better or for worse, you know, Do you, and I know it's still early, right? You're still very in the first year of this, coming out of it. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 33.
33.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I got a decade on you. But yeah, it'll be interesting to know how you feel about this, like 10 years from now, and then as you look back, right? I always wonder about those things, but we have a short podcast today, so we can't go into all these little rabbit holes. But they are good little conversation topics.
What is the question there? The question is 10 years from now.
Well, it's just like if we allow ourselves to constantly decide, oh, hey, this isn't serving me now, and it's like, hey, let's just break up, or let's just go, because we're both learning a new thing. I mean, I just feel like that could happen a lot, right? Like it's almost like we could just get used to a cycle of like.
What lesson are we trying to learn when we're doing these things? And maybe this is a worldview that I have, but I think everything that we do carries a lesson with it, and whether we pick up the lesson or not, that user dependent. But if we don't pick up the lesson, we're going to keep repeating the pattern. And if we picked up the lesson, and maybe the lesson there with me, and this is just speaking, I don't know, maybe I'll find a different message 10 years from now, but the lesson for me was being willing to choose myself, to bet on myself, to go do this thing and trust that I'd be all right and she'd be all right, and I wasn't actually letting her down throughout that process. But I don't need to learn that lesson again. So like if I'm with another partner, or she's with another partner, she may have learned a different lesson from our divorce. And with her current partner, she may be with them forever, and she may leave that person for another reason. I'm not sure, but I think that if we actually learned a lesson from the thing, I don't think that if we truly learned it, we're not going to repeat the same mistake. And I don't think that ending a relationship has to be a mistake either. I think both of us leveled up as a result of it. So ending the next one after 10 years or 7 years or 6 years or whatever number, or 1 year, I don't think that is something that would carry on the same pattern. Like I think some people would get maybe similar things from it, but both relationships are going to be in way different grounds.
Sure. Yeah. I kind of think about like the Ryan Holiday book, The Obstacle is the Way.
Okay.
And as like a marriage, I think if you talk to people that have been married for 30, 40, 50 years, they're going to tell you like, every decade, every 5, 10 years, like there's like, big time things that both humans need to go through to be able to figure out how to then figure out how to keep it working. Right. And it's like another skill set that they learn.
The obstacle is the way. That book, the premise of that is that the harder path is the more rewarding one.
I don't know. I actually just, yeah, I think so. Well, it's not that it's more rewarding, that there's bigger lessons or better lessons.
Rewards.
Yeah, sure. Rewards. Because it's harder. Right. And,
what's harder, staying in something or leaving
well,
something?
I guess it's all up
right?
Yeah. It's now that we're getting into philosophy.
They're both hard.
We can, pick your heart. Right. It's just an interesting thing to talk about, right? Because people are going to get very defensive about this marriage thing, right? And saying like, oh, hey, we gave up too soon, or we didn't get,
sure.
But then there's also times when it's like, yeah, like, what are you going to do? Live miserable, for, 80 years or 60 years? But then people are going to be like, well, you're choosing miserable. Like, you don't have to be miserable. You can be fine, That's a whole other thing, but I want to keep going.
Let's do it.
I have other things I want to get to.
I just want to clarify. I was not miserable.
Well, no, I get that. I feel like that you guys were both basically making very good rational decisions based on who you were. And I haven't even met your wife before, or your ex-wife, and I'm assuming that like she'd have a very similar story. It sounds like, of like her path, and it sounds like they'd both almost like be very. It seems like it was perfect for you guys, is what I'm trying to say, I think.
I think so.
It wasn't one-sided. It wasn't like you just jammed it down your throat. You sold yourself on that, and you're like, hey, here you go, I got to go, bye. One of those things. But when it comes to low moments in your life, where does that rank? And then like, what was the lowest moment of your life? Up to this date at 33. By the way, that's a great year because that's the year that Jesus died.
Yeah, Jesus year. I think that year was some of the hardest things that I'd ever been through, but I had never been more capable to go through them, and I never felt more liberated on the other side. Last year was an amazing year for me in a lot of different ways. This year has turned out to be just even better. And I don't know, if we talk about like rock bottom where I felt like I don't know how this is going to work, it was probably that 2017 year where I felt like I was going to lose the house, I was going to lose the car, I was going to lose all my friends, I was going to lose my identity, like all these things that were tied to that was probably there. Maybe it was when I was a kid and I was 12 and found out like my dad wasn't my dad, and he had never been a part of my life, and I found out that there was no father figure in my life and there never would be one. That was hard, but like I just think that, I don't know, the perspective of who I was in the moment when I experienced the thing, it continues to shift, and I think I become, I don't know, I don't feel like those same things, if I were to face today, would be nearly as detrimental as they were when I faced them when I was the age that I was.
Well, I was just getting ready to ask you a question. I feel like you just answered it.
Cool. Psychic.
What's something from your past that you didn't realize might still be affecting you? And you just kind of, I don't want to say you glossed over this whole thing about, like, you said when you were 12, you found out like who you thought was your dad wasn't your dad, and that you're never going to have a father figure in your life.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a big one.
That's big, but you're kind of like, just like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Have you ever sat with that?
I have.
Yeah. How's that affecting you? Or how was it affecting you? How's it affecting you today? Because that's big.
Yeah. So that one had a lot of impact on how I showed up in the world as a husband, as a father, as a leader, as a friend, as just a man. No role models. My mom never dated. I never had a father figure in the household. And, you know, given the time that my mom was in, the era she was in when she had me and what she walked away from, I'm glad she didn't date, because the dad that I would have had wouldn't have been a good pick. Probably would have been worse off in that situation. So that's how I cope with it or rationalize it. But
at least you're aware of that.
Of course.
You say of course, but a lot of people listening are like, whoa, what?
Yeah, cope, hope, it's all the same.
Yeah.
But let me see. If I were to play out a scenario where I did have the person that was supposed to be my dad and I didn't, I prefer this scenario.
So there was a male in your life up until 12 or something, and you thought that was your dad? Or
there was a guy that he was supposed to be paying child support, never did, but age 12, we did a DNA test to try to force like a lump sum payment. Yeah. And came back negative, and then it was like, oh crap, we don't know who it is.
So there was this mystery figure that like your mom would talk about, like, hey, this guy owes us money, and like this is your dad, but he's not paying, and your mom created that figure or whatever, and then you realize that guy was like, yeah, I'm not paying because it ain't mine. Probably. And then like it all came to a head. And how did you find out about that moment? Like, what was that like at 12?
Yeah, she shared it with me.
Like, how was it like in a... Was she conscious about it when she shared it with you?
Yeah, it was a very, like, she didn't know how to, I mean, she kept that in her for months.
Yeah.
Before she shared it with me, because she didn't know the words. How would it affect me? Like, and you know, I had been previously given the picture that he was kind of like this villain figure anyway, because right. So to me, and this is the part, like, sitting with it, going deep with it. My mom has a story of this moment, and I remember her telling me the story more than I remember the story. It's not really a super conscious moment of having this, but from what I recollect her telling me is she was over here, I was over here between a couch and a love seat. She shared with me, and it did result in me crying. I don't remember it.
Do you cry a lot?
Do I cry a lot?
Did you cry a lot before 2024?
No. No.
Cry more now?
I'm willing to show vulnerability and allow myself to cry now. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I cry. I can cry at least once a month.
Yeah, that's it. Once a month.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We got goals.
There's certain scenes in TV shows or movies that will evoke tears.
Are they around family?
They're
around like what it's like to have a father, what it's like to like have a conjoined like family unit, like the way that like you imagine like the best version of it. And then not having it, and then also then like wishing that like we had that.
There's one about. Have you seen Mr. Robot?
No. Oh wait, what is it?
Mr. Robot.
I don't think so.
Rami Malek. No. You'd remember if you'd seen it. It's a.
I was
show.
I think I seen iRobot.
Oh yeah, with Will Smith. Much different movie.
And then what's the one with Robin Williams when that was another robot movie.
Is that a space one?
No, he was just a robot. I don't know. There was just a robot. Anyway, keep going.
There's robots all over. It's AI days.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, there's an outro scene in there where it's more so the main character. I can't spoil the show, but
yeah, that's all right. Don't even worry about it. What I want to know is. That's a huge deal in a person's life, and there's more, because of this whole, hey, I can't figure out how to be together, right? There's all kinds of babies. I would say at least probably hundreds of millions of kids out there that are in a broken type of home.
Oh, for sure.
At all kinds of levels, like where you never even experienced a father in your life at all, correct? Like,
correct.
Yeah, and so
yeah, no boyfriends,
and then even still at this time, you still don't know who your dad is. Like,
no.
And your mom doesn't have any idea?
23andMe, Ancestry.com. I've been curious.
And your mom has no idea either?
There's a photo of a guy that looks fucking just like me. He's got the same gap in my tooth, but he has a DNA test and it doesn't match.
How's your man? I would love to interview your mom, but like, it's just fascinating to me, right? Like, it's just fascinating to like the levels of, I'm just imagining like, the levels of trauma that she had to be under,
Oh yeah, she's got a great story.
And then the shame, and then like all of the stuff that comes with that, and then like having to like raise you, and it does shed a lot of light on like the things that you've experienced as an adult, and the things that you're searching for. So I find that interesting. I appreciate you sharing that because it's not easy, especially in such a public, way.
Sure.
Because this is could just be me and you and our video producer, but it also, there's a good chance that this will pick up steam over the next 1,000 years.
Sure.
Because it's going to be on there forever. But man, I almost don't even know where to go because I didn't know that story.
Derailed you a little bit.
Well, a little not. I mean, like in the best way possible, because it's like I'm not really sure where I want to go next, because I think about that's such a big deal, and I think that especially guys. We don't, we just shove it down and we keep moving because we know that we got something to prove, right? And it's like a common thing, especially in, I find it a lot in entrepreneurs, and even in some of the ones that have the mom and dad that are there, but the dad's not actually there. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. He's working. He's working all the time. You know what I mean? Like, he's not there to pick you up, tell you he loves you, tell you he's proud of you, kiss you on the cheek, It's more of like just he's like a figurehead. It's like and that comes with its own set of challenges. But
yeah, we can have the absent father where we get to assign what that person looks like whenever we decide that there's someone worthy of assigning, whether that be a friend's dad, it be a superhero, it be a character from a TV show, it be a brother, whoever. We have that version, and we have the version where we get this guy and he didn't quite live up to the model as expected. And we're dealing with whatever repercussions come from that, whatever patterns we have to start unfolding. I think we're going to get some type of wound, no matter how good of a parent you have. It's just a different wound. And we all have these predispositions that then we have to unfold for the next 30 or 40 years until we wake up from it.
All right, here's what I want to know now.
Yeah.
It came to me while you were doing that rant.
Let's do it.
You want to find your father, right?
What, you want to put him on the podcast?
No. Whoa, you're jumping way ahead.
Okay.
Let's just one thing at a time.
Do I want to find my father?
Do you want to? You obviously, you said you took a bunch of tests, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that was actually encouraged by my ex.
Because she wanted to know. Because she wanted to like she needs to put pieces and parts together. I understand that too.
Yeah.
Both my ex-wife and my current wife, both of their dads died when they were 20. And so, like, I have no idea who their fathers were.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm very curious.
Yeah.
But, like, I'll never be able to meet them. So, like, you can only hear stories and stuff like that. But, like, I never really trust the stories because that's only from a certain lens, right? Or a certain side.
Right.
And so I think there's a natural fascination.
Sure.
To, like, figure out where people came from. And so
I think so.
And so I would then assume there's a natural fascination for the human like you to know who your dad is, where he's at, if he's still around, what he was like, just to like, I don't know, try to make sense of something.
Yeah, I think from a nature versus nurture perspective, I think finding out some of the innate things to me genetically, I think seeing that and seeing what behavior patterns with no contact, no association with this person, it would be fascinating to meet this person, shake their hand. I don't think that they knowingly did what they did. I think it was probably a hookup.
Well,
and
I mean, obviously, I mean, yeah. So when were you born? What's your birthday?
92. July. Yeah.
July 92.
Yeah.
So if you're out, and what city were what town?
I was born in Berwyn.
Is that where your mom was at for pretty much that time of her life?
Cicero area.
Berwyn, Cicero, Illinois.
Yeah.
And so if you're a guy out there that thinks that, that July, so it'd probably be like, I would say September, October of 91.
That would be November.
Or November, yeah, I don't know, 6 months, 6 months.
9 months, bro.
Yeah, 9 months. That's what I'm saying, but maybe not November, maybe
October, maybe.
Yeah, October, whatever. Somewhere in the fall.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the fall, sometime maybe between Halloween and Thanksgiving. In that town. What's your mom's first name?
Dawn.
Dawn,
yeah.
Yeah. If you're out there, comment, subscribe, shoot me a message, shoot Matt a message. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting.
If something comes of that, I would be amazed.
And you never know. There's a lot of sleuths out there. So, I mean, I definitely think it could happen if you really wanted it. And I think that's something that you'll either pursue or you'll let go completely and just see if it happens. So,
yeah, I think I'm more on the letting go path. Yeah. But if it did happen, I'd be welcome and open to it.
Yeah, I think you seem like a guy that's open to both, and you're you're humble enough, and you're curious enough, and you're emotionally intelligent enough to deal with either side, no matter what. So because you've done some of this work, and that's what I want to get into next.
Okay.
So we got a little bit of background on Matt. So you talk about this retreat. You talk about going on the sabbatical for a year. What were you hoping to find? What did you find? And what maybe rhythms or practices have you learned since then to kind of help keep you grounded through this past, that year of, I guess, 2024, maybe a little bit of this beginning of this year? I don't know.
Yeah. 2024, I experimented and gave myself permission to experiment. One of the things I wanted to do was make sure that I had more time to explore. I knew I needed to find some source of income to provide because I couldn't do this year off forever. And I knew if I didn't find something that it would be back to roofing. So I tried setting up other income streams. So I started to explore different things and learn skills that I hadn't had time to develop, like marketing, recruiting, and a few things like that. And I started to kind of test the waters and help people out for free. During that time, I went to a bunch of masterminds and business workshops and started to learn more stuff there and started connecting with people. And I started just interviewing.
The hat you got on.
Yeah, that's one of them. But I started connecting with people from those events and started just offering them free help on their business. And I just started just trying to take life as more of a service for that year, where I could pick up other skill sets, help them with their problems, and just kind of help solve their problem with them. I may not have been equipped to figure out exactly what the problem is that they were solving, but I knew, just based on my prior history, that I had enough resourcefulness to figure out just about anything if I had time and resources to find it, and everything's on the internet today.
So you're like, instead of like software as a service, like SaaS model, you got a LaaS model, life as a service.
Tell me more about that.
Well, so you just described that to me. So what you were describing to me, you're offering life as a service.
Like my life?
Well, and what you've learned to help others, right? And so, and and again, I just, for some reason, I wrote that down. I put SaaS.
LaaS.
And I put LaaS. LaaS, life as a service.
I like it. Yeah. But yeah, I spent most of that year just helping people, testing the water, getting involved in other businesses, finding a lot of roofing companies just because that was the circle that I knew, and some other home services companies that I knew from some of these workshops, because I felt like they had problems that I could certainly, they would translate over. But I was helping with those, and I just was trying to figure out what I actually liked. And I liked helping people. I didn't like putting out the fires. in like the day-to-day operations of the company, but I really liked figuring out, okay, here's the problem. Oh, well, like and then start just using some of the stuff that I learned from these retreats and started learning some of the things that in motivational interviewing, different therapy methods, things like that to hold space, and start to use those things that we learned from the retreats on holding space for each other and use that to hold space for these business owners and start to find out what the actual root of the problem was. Because a lot of the times it's not like, sometimes it's the conversation they need to have with their sales manager. And sometimes it's the conversation that they need to have with themselves as to why they're not relinquishing control in their business to hire a person that can do the thing better than they could and allocate more resources towards it rather than trying to grasp onto everything. And sometimes it's just like you have a bad model. And it could be anywhere in between. It could be a soft skill or a hard skill, but helping them navigate through those and start to uncover what that problem is for themselves. All those skills between both the workshops and all these retreats I was going to, they all cross-pollinated into each other. And I found with the workshops, I had this super practical, pragmatic way of solving things when a lot of people are going into these emotions of like, you know, what is trauma? And when I go into the business thing, it's like, hey, we can start to work on all these soft skills and start to help them with whatever it is that they're trying to solve, that hitting a nail with a hammer isn't working, right? Because they only have one method of hitting the nail, and it's with the hammer. But like that tool isn't made for the screw, and it isn't made for all these other things. Like, yes. I think both parties are trying to do one thing in one way. And I think having multiple tools, frameworks, viewpoints on how to tackle multiple problems, just mental models in general, I think that is the key to removing any obstacle you want.
So back to you in the sabbatical and trying to figure out, like, you know, what you're hoping to find. Tell me this. Was there a moment during that year, during that sabbatical, maybe that you were alone, where like a rush of peace finally came over you, that maybe had been the first time in like a long time? And what was that about? And what did you feel like?
It was the month of June. It was, I just moved into my new place in May. I was there. I was, like you said, I was alone. And I had started to figure out my own routine. I started to explore, instead of just doing the gym thing or just doing the work thing or doing all these patterns that I was like repeating over and over again, like I did in 2023, I was able to just kind of figure out, with no external stimuli, how would I spend my time? What things would I look into? Like, I would wake up without an alarm clock. What time would I wake up? What time would I go to bed? What things would I do? How would I spend my time? How much, like, what would I eat? Without the external stimuli, it's so crazy how many things we get influenced to us that we accept just because another person is doing it. Like, if your partner is cooking something, you happen to eat it because it's convenient. Or if you get a call from a customer and it is a job that would probably allow you to do the thing that you wanted to do because it's a large size job, or maybe it's a problem. It hijacks your time immediately because you start to prioritize, like, oh shit, I have to go, if I go do this, like, it allows me to do this. Or if I don't do this, my company could burn and I could get a bad reputation. And like, not having those external pools, I just got to figure out who I was.
What lies did you have to unlearn about yourself? Maybe about success, about love, any other topics?
Well, I can tell you, when I got into a new relationship, one of the things that we did, we met on Hinge.
So you're in a new relationship? Yeah. Okay.
And getting into a new relationship, even in my profile, like I was studying marketing at the time, so I wrote my profile like it was an ad, because I think that's what it is. Eyeballs are going to view it. You want them to click through and, you know, whatever. But I wrote it.
Welcome.
Yeah, for my target avatar. And I thought really diligently around like what that person would be and what I was actually looking for as I started to figure out, like, okay, this is me on my own. What would harmonize with this? Because I started to figure out what my ecosystem was. And I started to realize that I don't want anything in my ecosystem that fucks with it. Like, I want my ecosystem to be undisrupted. The other person should complement it, not change it. And little things like, you know, I wanted to see life as a 2-player game where both of us were going after the same goal, having that alignment that we talked about earlier. that was one of the first things in my profile that the partner that I'm with now saw. And that was like such a such an impactful thing. I think just figuring out like, what do you want? What do I want? And hey, are we willing to just lean in and pretend that this is basically marriage from the jump, and like work relentlessly towards this? Anytime we feel like we're going to pull away from each other, like we lean in closer, which is a lot of what you were talking about before with the obstacle is the way. We set guidelines and frameworks around how we're going to argue. Like if you feel emotionally elevated, like I am going to hold space for you and shift into that moment. How do you hold space? Well, it's like this. And started creating this feedback loop where both of us could be our authentic, transparent self and didn't have to censor each other. The way I interacted with other people evolved so much from my current relationship. Because I got a feedback loop that's constant practice. Like we're in proximity to each other. We get to constantly go back and forth and reinforce all the things that I think make me better out in the world and make her better out in the world. I don't even know if I answered your question, to be honest with you.
You didn't, actually. I don't think you did anyway.
What was the question?
Well, and again, we're running short on time. We only got like, maybe 10 minutes left. It was, what lies did you have to unlearn about yourself?
Yeah.
And again, this is a common thing that we do, especially us guys. We then deflect and then we go on. We didn't do it on purpose. It's just we're trained. We're just trained human beings to like not have to just sit with the actual question. Do you want to take another shot at it?
The lies that I had to unlearn about myself.
Yeah, like when it comes to like even success, like what success is all about, like what's love. Was there anything that
I think it was how I showed up as a partner, and I mean that through that relationship, and also how I show up in work and how I show up in other collaborative settings.
Why do you think you got in a relationship so quick after such a bold time in your life?
I think doing a lot of the processing during the last year of our relationship played a large part in that. I also think that some people would probably assume that there's the idea of rebounding. And I'm not saying that wasn't present.
Well, just maybe rebound's a strong word. Maybe that there's some wounds that haven't healed yet, maybe.
Sure.
And that you're still a little open and a little sensitive. And then you also have this need for attachment.
Mm-hmm.
I sense that. Maybe like it's like, oh, well, he had his mom for all those years, and it was just those, it was just them, and then like, and he had this wife for a long time, you're only 33, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I'm thinking like, all right, well, and I also understand like what that's like. It's like sometimes I feel like I can't even function if I don't have somebody, but that's like a trauma response. I feel like, I should be okay with me no matter what, and everything else is a bonus.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, it is what it is. I just, I'm curious if you thought about that and were conscious about that since you were going through some of those things, and what you had to say about it. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. As far as the attachment thing, I think I grew up in solitude, and I think I'm okay with who I am on my own. I prefer life with another person. Mm-hmm. I don't think that I need it, and I've been willing to step away from it. In many relationships. I would say that growing up with no siblings, with just a mom who was as present as she can be when she has to work jobs and is completely exhausted and not there for, like, I raised myself in a lot of different areas. She showed up in every way that she could, and I'm thankful for that. But like, I like alone time.
Yeah, I think
I love it.
I think we all do. I just think it's I just think that being aware of where we're at and then what we need and then how that affects the other human on the other side. But I think that you're I think that's I don't have an opinion either way. I'm just always exploring the whys, right? Because I think that, there's a spectrum. Some people will be like, oh my gosh, you got to wait a year. Some people are like, oh yeah, go tomorrow's fine. And then like there's all everywhere in between. And so,
well, as I mentioned, like with us, it was all in right away. And to me, maybe that's just how I am with everything. But like, we're doing a retreat in December, and I had thought about it a little bit. Like, maybe I want to go do this and go down this adventure and like do my own thing with these retreats. And the opportunity, like, I kind of got a little bit of a nudge, maybe you'll call that a sign or whatever, and had one conversation, found the spot, booked the spot the same night. And then I was like, all right, now we got to figure it out. Sometimes I think just committing to the thing and then just putting your back against the wall is the best way to really dive in. And knowing, just like from the divorce or anything else,
ships.
I can always undo it. I can always, like,
always
I'm not saying I want to.
You can always make a new decision tomorrow.
I can. I give myself permission to change my mind infinite times.
I know, you just have the life of another human on the line. That's all. It's the stakes are high.
With my business,
the stakes are high. It's easy to say that about other stuff.
But I promise you, in all the people that you can ask that have been a part of this, whether it be my previous employees, my previous wife, my current partner, whoever, like, I always try to leave things better than I found them. And
I do believe that.
I don't think that it sounds egotistical, but like somebody being in proximity of me, I think we're going to push each other and help each other grow in that process and be equipped for, if there is a detachment period that comes later, that we're ready for it. I don't look and do things as if I need to have one foot out the door. I just lean all the way in. And if I do that, I know that it has a much higher likelihood of succeeding.
Well, you said something just a minute ago about, you want to be with someone, right? You want to do life together, which I think that God designed all of us to do life together and connection. And we talked a little bit about that today earlier before we started the show. But speaking of God, I wanted to touch on here. I don't have a ton of time to go into this, but like, tell me about who God is to you. What's been your experience with God? I'm just curious, along your path.
God has been weaving in many different forms throughout my entire life. I don't subscribe to the idea that God shows himself, whether as Christ or somebody else, just as one particular image. I believe that God is involved in everything that we do, and I subscribe to God's plan. I think that God has control over this ship, and in whatever form or fashion that one person believes, I think the goal of connecting with God, the seeking of God, is finding God in itself. I think the yearning is the part that's important. And
when you say control, I'm curious if you think, did he just have the one control where he said, hey, I'm going to give all these humans free will, and he just went with that decision? He's never changed his mind since, and he kind of just lets it be, and like whatever happens, like dominoes just fall for good and for bad. Is that how, do you believe that, or do you believe something different?
In determinism.
What do you call it?
Determinism?
Yeah, you know a lot more words than I do. I don't know that. What's that mean?
Determinism is, if this pen rolls across the table, it's because something pushed it. If I decided to push it, it's because I had the inclination to prove a point to you. If you ask that to me, it's because you didn't know what that word is. You didn't know what that word is because we can go on and on and on all the way to root cause, and whether you want to call that Big Bang Theory if you're a science guy, or if you're somebody who believes in God. God created this universe, and then I think that everything, if revelation exists, which I believe that it does, then everything is predetermined.
Right, but at the same time, you still have free will.
I think we have the perception of free will, and I think that we...
Ooh, that's another podcast. The perception of free will. What do you mean by that?
I think that if we think that we chose something, we're either choosing to conform or rebel against the notion of free will. So if you try to demonstrate free will, like what's an example of free will that you would say? You threw that at me because you're trying to prove a point. Right?
Know,
why are you trying to prove a point? Maybe it's your childhood wound. I don't know. I'm just saying that if we can't explain it, it just means that we don't understand enough of the variables that are playing into it. But I believe that every single thing happens because something led up to it. The world is a series of causes and effects, and I think we navigate through life with the belief that we are choosing things, because otherwise the game would not be that fun.
Man, I'm gonna have to watch that back because I gotta unpack that. Maybe I'll have some questions. If you have comments or questions about that, that'd be something good to drop in the chat. Man, that's good. My brain hurts after that one because that's something hard to wrap your head around.
I just want
to
double
free will.
Yeah, I want to double click on that though. Like I don't think we choose what we believe or what we don't believe. I think that is also predetermined based on all of our circumstances leading up to whatever.
Because there's an ultimate story that's already been told or that's already out there that we're just actually like finishing this, like we're just actually like acting it out.
Of course. And someone's lack of conviction might be the thing that gives you your conviction.
Yeah, I hear you. I understand that. Yeah, or like for even my story, like why did I go through such painful moments in my life? Is it because I was then going to get an opportunity to tell people about those painful moments so that way they can see a life of transformation? But did I actually have to go through that? I don't know. It's very interesting though. Or did I just choose after those things that's going to be my way of redemption? Or I don't know. Sometimes I struggle with that too. But
I will say this: I do think that if you were to entertain determinism, it's either all the way there. I think another contrarian belief, which I believe less but is a little easier for some people to grasp, that there are certain checkpoints in life that must be met. And sometimes if you choose one path or you choose another path, both paths lead there. Does that connect?
Yeah.
Like the same checkpoint would have happened no matter what. And some of those big pillar moments are always going to happen. You will always end up in that person no matter how many people lead up before that person.
And we get hung up in the minutia, the anxiety of it, and we're like, rather than just knowing that we're still going to get there. Yeah. It's kind of like in Candyland where there's like the little extra, isn't there like a little extra pathway, to still get to the end?
Yeah, or shoots and ladders.
That's it. Shoots and ladders.
You go down.
What I was thinking about. Yeah.
Eventually, you get to the end. You just keep rolling the dice or spinning the wheel or whatever it is. Yeah.
Shoots and ladders. Wow. Maybe we should title this podcast. I don't know. What do I want to ask you before we wrap up? If someone's listening right now in the fog that you were in last year, what do you want them to know?
Themselves.
And how do they do that?
I think spending time without stimulation. I think turning off the phone when you have a break between things, carving out that time, scheduling that time if you think you don't have it, and abiding by that. Journaling. I think there's a lot of things, and I think the pursuit of that, just like the pursuit of God, kind of one and the same, but it's finding out where you're going and what you're searching for. I think if you have a better idea, if you're in the fog, I think the first thing you need is clarity. And once you have clarity, I don't think that it's that hard. I think most people struggle in making the decision, not in carrying through with the decision. I think the will they, won't they, the am I going to do this, am I not going to do this, will I do this forever, am I going to do something new, am I going to fall victim to this addiction, or am I going to choose sobriety? Like that, maybe that is hard, some of those things. But I think the decision to actually do that, what you talked about earlier about the fear of the new thing versus the fear of the old thing, like they have to switch places. That's the only way change is actually going to occur. So if you want to get out of the fog, first you'd find clarity. You'd find out who you are and make sure that signal is super clear, which you only get from silence and removal of distraction. And then
Hormozy?
What's that?
Did you get that from Hormozy?
No.
The signal thing? Like we're like, yeah, I can't remember what he was talking about the other day. You know
I actually heard signal versus noise from Kevin O'Leary like 3 weeks ago. I don't even watch him, but that video got shared with me.
Oh yeah, it was Kevin O'Leary. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Alex Hormozy.
No, it was signal versus noise, and I think he was citing Steve Jobs. Did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting.
And that has, I use signal just in general, like stimuli is synonymous with it, but it's like which stimuli is mine versus which stimuli is outside in the world. I need to find my authentic signal without any outside influence to find out what that is. Because if I have all these voices talking to me, my signal's distorted. It's blurry.
Well, that's interesting that you just said that, because one of my final questions is like, who is Matt Brasic?
Matt Brasic.
Brasic. Well,
that's who. Man, I don't know that I have anything I could define that would be timeless. What I mean by that is I give myself permission to continually reinvent myself and accept that I'm wrong almost all the time, and continue down that path of destruction and rebirth, resurrection, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I don't know. Who I was last year is not who I am right now, and who I was 2 years ago was not that. I assume 2026 will not be who's talking right now. So I'm someone who gives myself permission to shed.
Shed. Gino Wickman talks about shedding in the book Shine. He calls it shed your shit.
Maybe I got to read it.
Shed your shit and shine, he says. What's one thing that you want to tell your mom that maybe she doesn't know? She hasn't heard from you.
I don't think she's fully accepted. I've told her before, but that she did a good job. That she was given a very hard hand to play out, and I'm extremely happy with how I turned out as a result of that, and that I wouldn't change anything about myself. So deterministically, we're going to use that again, everything played out perfectly. She did what she was supposed to do.
I could say the same exact thing about my mom.
Right on.
Yeah.
Moms are cool.
I just found out my mom listens to every podcast.
Does she? Yeah, I bet my mom will listen to this at least twice.
She just started, but she's listened to every episode already. And so, Mom, if you're watching or listening, I love you. You did a great job. All right, and maybe a harder question is, whenever you meet your father, your biological sperm donor father, what are you going to say to him? Or what do you want to say to him? What do you want him to know about you?
I don't have, that is a hard one.
I know. That's why I gave you the easy one first.
Yeah, right. I mean, to be honest, I don't know that I could distill it down into one line. I think I would love to just observe who he is and how he interacts with people, and get to know him and hold space for him, and get him to some type of weekend thing where we could actually spend some time together and like.
But what do you want him to know about you right now?
Well, I mean, first, I don't want him to feel guilty for doing it, because, again, I'm happy with where I'm at. I don't think he did anything wrong, and if he did, like, again, happy where I'm at, doesn't matter. Yeah, I don't know, that if he feels like he needs to lose some guilt, that I forgive him, but I don't think that he even needs to ask for that or feel that way. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, just I guess knowing something about me, since you're gonna tell me I'm dodging the question.
Hey, you know it. You said it, not me. I didn't say that.
I know. I'm projecting. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to have a conversation with him. Get to know him as another man.
Cool. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish I would have asked you?
Yeah, no, I think we covered most of the grounds. I think, no, we're good.
Awesome. Well, if you guys got value out of this podcast today, let us know. You know, we want to make this show bigger. We want to make a bigger impact. I'm actually putting together a podcast focus group for the listeners. And so if you're interested, you can go to the website. I think we'll have a link in the show notes where you can kind of join a group, and we'll do like a live Zoom call to get feedback on how we do these podcasts, what kind of guests you're looking for in the future, what type of topics and conversations, some of your favorite episodes. We just, in an effort to make this bigger, this is a passion of mine. I want to do this for a long time, and so I need your help. Until then, we'll see you on another edition of the Big Fish Cares podcast.